Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Safe Room. I'm your host, the President Sean Williams, and today we have another special guest. This is someone I had the pleasure of meeting back in February. And look, it's been a long time coming. The year's almost done, which is almost crazy. I can't believe we're in August, but time flies. And today we have someone very, very special. She's a financial professional, public speaker, lifestyle influencer. She has it all. She has it all just jotted down and living her best life. And today we're bringing her on to just talk a little bit about some financial literacy, just how you, maybe if you're an entrepreneur or a business, need some financial advice, some guidance. And today, it's going to be a lot of gems, a lot of gems. So get your notebooks and your pens ready because today we have the wonderful Eboni Ledford. Eboni, how are you?
I'm doing well, Sean. Thank you so much for having me. And I know it's crazy that it's not the end of the year, but it's the end of the year. Once August is here, it's almost like, shoot, it's fall, then Christmas, then February again. So it's so nice seeing you. And I'm super excited to be on today.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. You're very, very busy, and I understand the reason for that. You're doing your work, you're enjoying your summer, and summer's about to wrap up. And I've barely touched grass, so I might have to kind of get my runs into before it starts to get cold outside. But again, you've been enjoying yourself, so it's good to see that. And again, I'm just glad that you're on the podcast to share a little bit about the work that you do. Hopefully, for anyone listening, they could gain something, some insight that allows them to grow with their own business.
Absolutely.
Perfect, perfect. So before we get into all the questions, you know how we always start these episodes, ladies and gentlemen, our hot seat segment. So Ebony, I got 4 questions for you and just answer them to your best ability, okay?
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So question number 1. Outside of the work that you do as a financial professional, tell me something about yourself in 1 sentence.
A Jill of all trades.
Okay, okay, I
Yeah.
like it. Just straight to the point. It's like I'm not gonna waste any more time. Just straight to the point. I feel you. I feel you. Maybe you want to like explain a little bit more because I know I've heard that saying. I understand, but maybe for some people who may not know what that
Yes.
phrase may mean.
So I would say a Jill of all trades in that I can do and I do a lot. I'm a fixer, so I like to build things. I at one point was addicted to HGTV, and so I was oftentimes like working on these different projects and like decor, as you can see behind me. Like I'm always doing these small things. Of course, fitness. Jill of all trades also means doing the things that are kind of odd, like roller skating. And I say odd because I mean roller skating outdoors where it's extremely dangerous and not in a controlled space. I like bicycling, all of these great things. So there is not really much that I don't do. And that's what a Jill of all trade is.
So basically, you're like a daredevil in a way. Just like you give me something, I'll do it. I'll take a swing at
Yeah.
it.
The only thing I haven't attempted yet, I might do it this year, is skydiving. That's the only thing. I mean, there's the other things that are very obvious. Let me put that out there. I don't swim with sharks. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm not crazy, but there are some risks that I love to take.
I mean, sometimes I wish I was yourself, just taking those risks and everything. Maybe I'm more grounded, but it doesn't mean that like I won't try different things or go into new
Mhm.
avenues. But skydiving, you might have to check me in the future on that one. Just like not sure, but I respect it. I respect the answer. I respect it. So, okay, second question: a financial moment in your life that you're most proud of.
I would say when I crossed over my savings goal, it was what year are we in? 2023? I believe it was 2021 where I set a savings goal for myself just to add some money, at least $10,000 to my investments. And I crushed that number very graciously. And that was really exciting for me because that was a huge milestone just to be able to add that much and hit the savings targets that I've set, because in the past I was struggling so much with, you'd save like $1,000, you'd be like, all right, I'm on my way, and then you blink, and then it's spent. So that was a really exciting moment for me because it showed me a lot about where I came from, who I am now, and where I'm headed.
That's really good. It shows a lot of discipline as well. Because, like you mentioned, you can have $1,000, and before you can even take the time to say, "Okay, I have this money," it's gone. And then now you're panicking. Oh, I need some money. I need this and that. And like, I think a lot of us go through that. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later. Just how to have that discipline and be able to, manage your funds accordingly. So that way you're actually saving and investing more than just spending. So yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Third question, an interesting fact that you rarely share about yourself.
Oh, an interesting fact that I really share about myself. When I was younger, an iron dropped on my foot, and what some people might mistake as a birthmark on my foot is very small now. Um, it was an iron that dropped while one of my older cousins was babysitting me. And now I'm a very alert person when it comes to the status and the temperature of an iron.
Wow. Wow. That's actually probably that might be the best answer you gave so far in terms of like this entire segment when it comes to that specific question. I'm being honest, like that is so I wouldn't say funny. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's like wow, it's a nice little chuckle,
No,
but
but
it's
it
like
was funny.
yeah, but it's no, because don't get
Yeah,
me
so my
wrong.
whole life I had this like birthmark on my foot, but it's not.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely feel that when you're ironing clothes, it becomes a scary thing at some points because you're worried if you're touching the iron with your hand, or maybe you knock it over with your arms and stuff like that. Like it's happened to me. I got burned by the iron like multiple times, and like it's like a frightening sight. But
Yes.
it's interesting. But now it's making me think like okay, I feel like now that you mention it, every time I see you in person, it's like, okay, if she's wearing heels, and it's like, do I have to see if the mark is
Can I see
there?
this?
It's just like,
Yeah, this was a it was a very fun moment. I don't remember the pain or anything. I literally just remember like it wasn't dropped. I was a rambunctious kid, and so people would be like, "Okay, stop running around. Tell you to stop running around," and you just keep running and running. And I was running, and she was ironing, and exactly what you mentioned. The problem with the iron is like you can be very careful, but one wrong move and I had made that wrong move and it just toppled over on me. So yeah, if you ever see me in person, try to guess which foot it is. We'll see if you can see it now. We'll see.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, final question for this hot seat segment. What is your personal safe room?
My personal safe room would be my community, my family, like my people. And so any room that I'm in with those people, like my immediate family, my partner, my closest friends, is a safe room. In fact, one of my goals is to build a mecca of a sort. And it would only be my people that live in there. So you never have annoying neighbors unless your friend's getting on your nerves for this week, but it's kind of like that would just be an ultimate safe space for me. And so anywhere that I have those people that pour into me mentally, spiritually, with love, with excitement, with motivation, anywhere around them, I'm safe.
Yes, I absolutely love that. Building that type of like community with the people that that inner circle. I think that's something a lot of us should be trying to do. I know everyone's trying to like meet everyone all at once, but sometimes it's good to figure out who's in that inner circle that's going to support you with your goals and your admirations as well. And fun fact for everyone listening, this is the second time I've asked Ebony this specific question, I believe, because the first time it was at the Secure the Bag Summit earlier this year in February. So I was kind of thinking, are you going to give me a different answer, or is you going to say the exact same thing? Which, if you ask me, I don't even remember what you said back in February. I have to go back
That's
and
what I
check
was
the video.
gonna say. I was gonna say, did I say the exact same thing? I think what I said was likely very close.
Yeah, yeah. So it might have been two different answers, but it's good to see that even over like a time, the answers can change that quickly depending just how we're carrying on with life, how we're going about things. So yeah, definitely interesting to hear that you want to build that mecca, build that community, and have that inner circle. That's great. And yeah, you nailed the questions off the jump. The hot seats, I made like 4 out of 4 in my books.
Thank you. They're
Yes.
good questions. They're good questions.
Yeah, I appreciate. Listen, I'm glad when someone tells me it's a good question because sometimes I'm asking myself, are these questions that people would like to get off the jump? Because I don't want to go straight into like the heavy stuff. I like to ease everyone into it just to bring out their personality and everything like that. Again, this is the safe room. It's a safe space.
Yes, I love it.
Okay, okay. So now that the fun's over, let's actually get into like the material and everything like that. So Ebony, I do want you to kind of talk about your experience being a financial professional. I know when people hear finance, a lot of red flags go up because it's a very touchy subject. Sometimes people want to know more, but sometimes they're afraid to go to certain sources, or maybe they're just a fear that if I open up on my financial situation, it may be, oh, I'm not at this height where I want to be, or I'm not where this person's at. So maybe you can just talk about your personal beginnings and even just how you started to help individuals with their financial situations. And was this something that you knew that you wanted to do, or was it something that it was kind of like God speaking to you, like this is the right moment where you need to step into it? So maybe just go into a little detail on that.
I like to work backwards, so I'll start with that last question. If you had asked me 6 years ago what I would be doing right now, it 100% wouldn't have been finance. Like, if you had told me, hey, buddy, you're going to get into finance, I would say, I don't know what type of sorcery this is, but you are wrong. And it was because I strongly just detested math. And as much as I loved money for myself, I just never thought of myself being a financial professional. I was never interested in accounting, any of that stuff. In fact, my purpose at that time was what I thought would be to be a lawyer, a family lawyer. And I worked very hard in university and in all of my studies and in my, friendships and relationship building to become that lawyer. And that was my identity forever until I realized the other side of life. Like, sometimes you turn a coin, because the thing is, there are good jobs, and what I wanted was a good job. And I thought that I was worthy of a good job because I knew that I was intelligent. I knew that I was different. And believe it or not, even from a very young age, I knew that I was entitled to have some wealth. I just didn't know how much. And
Right.
so I thought, okay, if you want to be wealthy and you deserve to be wealthy, how do you build wealth? Well, the first answer is you get a good job. And the best job for somebody who's extremely talkative at that time, when you're a kid, people are like, yo, you like to lie, so be a lawyer. And it's like, sounds good to me. I like to argue. Sounds good to me. And I said I would go into law because it was just a very obvious and aligned profession to building wealth, until I saw their salary. And I was like, a lawyer makes $80,000? Like, and imagine that I was saying that when I was in high school. So let's say this is 2013, 2012. $80,000 was a lot at that time. But as somebody in high school, I was like, that doesn't seem like they get paid what they're worth for all the time that they put in. I want to travel the world maybe someday. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I know $80,000 isn't enough. So fast forward, I taste that side of life. I start traveling. I'm going to Bahamas and all of these great places. And I really just start living this life that I knew I deserved, but I've never seen before. Once I started doing it, you can't stop. I don't know if anybody's ever done something like that. Like, you start off with shoes and you're matching your outfits with your shoes. Well, now you've got a problem because you can't wear one of the outfits without a shoe that matches.
Yeah.
So you have to keep up the thing. And my thing was traveling and living and treating myself. And so when I couldn't afford it, I would do it with credit. And all that was fine and dandy because I got a credit card when you go to school, was the very first thing that they gave me. In fact, the credit card was not optional. In order for me to have a student account with the bank, it was mandatory that I took this credit card. So I was like, win-win. I have this credit card. That only had $1,000 limit. So as you can imagine, with each trip, I was really running it up and I didn't have much room to go over. So what did I do? I got another credit card. And this one had a lot more room. But at first, like, oh, maybe I should get a hold of my finances. But what really started to happen wasn't even the fact that I was running up my credit card. I could care less about that because I was always able to pay it back and then run it up again and pay it back and run it up again. And at that time, I didn't understand that it was costing me a lot of money. I just knew that as long as I could clear it in time to make another purchase, we didn't care. what made me care was the thought of, all right, when you have kids or you buy a house or you take on some additional responsibility, like you get your own cat or, you guys get married, you can't do this anymore. It was like a really rude awakening. You cannot afford to do this as soon as you start to add stuff. And that was the thing that made me say, "Ooh, holy smokes, wait 1 second. Let me figure out how money works." So I went to a seminar and I learned how money works, just some concepts. And in the span of like 30 to 40 minutes, I knew everything that I feel like would have taken me a lifetime to learn. And I was very frustrated. And then I thought, Sean, okay, well, if I don't know this as brilliant as I am, if I don't know this, other people don't know this. So then I was like, holy smokes. And when I think of who the other people are, I feel like they look like me. I feel like they speak like me. I feel like, they're going through the same situation as me. And some of them more, more dramatic in that they haven't even tasted the other side of life. So they're stuck in a place of, I'm just trying to get by, and getting by for them is mediocrity. Whereas at least getting by for me was, I'm tasting some good life occasionally. So I came and I learned how to be a good financial professional. I studied hard, I got my licenses, and I started building my business at a very young age. So I know this is a long winded way of how I got into this industry, but I think it's an important storyline because it kind of speaks to the fact that I was never meant to be here. If I could have created a life, it wouldn't have been this, but in so many ways it would have, because it was just purpose. And everything that I had tried to build for myself, it wasn't that it wasn't going to plan, but God literally said, stop what you're doing. Here you go. I forgot to apply to law school, and the rest they say was history.
Yeah, I feel you. And like you said a lot of key things. The first thing you said was storyline. And I feel like the way you were going over just how everything started, it's very authentic. It didn't feel like, again, something that was so broad, like it's just grandiose. It didn't feel like it was the biggest thing. It's like I was going through some things and I was just kind of going with the flow, school and everything, and then something happened. Then you decided to just go into it. You did some more digging, and then eventually it was something where you heard other people saying, like, I'm just trying to get by. And I love for you, you're basically trying to do with your business is teach people or motivate people it's okay to think big or strive for big things, because you mentioned sometimes a lot of people just want to get by when it comes to their financial situation, and sometimes it's mediocrity, because we shouldn't always be trying to just think, oh, I'm just gonna get to whatever the benchmark is and just I'm okay with it. It's like, no, like you should strive to push over that benchmark, get to that next level. And I love how you have that ambition, not just for yourself, but to those that you're wanting to help and support. So I think that's really great. And again, the whole storyline thing, I believe, again, this is something that was kind of written for you, but you didn't know. And it was also like something where God's like, listen, you want to do this? I'm telling you, you're going in this direction. And like obviously, like with God, like you're not gonna argue with God, are you? No, it's like he's the one. He's the one that's putting the path for you. So again, I love how you went into detail, and I love how you've come to this point where you are trying to motivate those to live that luxurious lifestyle where they're able to just enjoy themselves and be financially like not stressed about it, because sometimes
Yes.
you feel that pressure where I can't do certain things or I want to go out, but in the back of your mind it's like, what about my credit card bill? Or wait, I got a payment. Oh, there's mortgage due and stuff like that. You're someone who's like, listen, I want to help you so that way you're able to live your life to your best capability. Because again, I know sometimes, even nowadays, you're looking at these different markets, you're looking at the housing market and just how things are working. People are stressed, including myself. I'm not gonna lie. You walk into a store, you see the price of groceries, and like your head starts to boil. It starts to turn red because now it's like, oh man, I can't pick up this, or now I gotta like micromanage and stuff like that. But I really appreciate the words that you share, because it's kind of motivating me a little bit to just take things like slow, but also say, you
Hmm.
know what, I don't want to just get by. Like if you ask me, I want to be able to say I can make 6 figures, 7 figures easy. That's the lifestyle I want. So I just want to say thank you for sharing that because it kind of opens something up in me, to be honest.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yes, yes. Okay. Let's go a little bit more into detail. So again, there were a lot of entrepreneurs that I've talked to and, people I've connected with saying that they're trying to sustain, a cash flow. And a lot of times if they have a business or they're running a product or a service, they're trying to figure out how can I manage my funds or my finance so it allows me to generate revenue and make profit without having to spend so much on expenses. Now, I know you mentioned you're a financial professional, but maybe you could break down a bit exactly what do you cover and also like what are some of the best ways for people who are just trying to balance their general expenses. So whether it's like food, paying off rents or whatever. So yeah, like so the two questions again, maybe break down a little bit what do you do as a financial professional? So like the different services or maybe the different avenues and also what are some ways that people can, fine to just balance their general expenses on a daily basis.
Okay, so good questions. I specialize in different types of insurances from life to accident sickness to critical illness. I also support with things like annuities and investments. And I am also helping people with just developing a financial plan. And that's very diverse because a financial plan could be how do you spend less and save more? But it can also be how do you achieve XYZ goal? Like you were saying, a lot of people who might be listening in have these big goals and you need a plan to achieve them. I understand, and I'm a big believer in, like you said earlier, and I made me giggle, you can't argue with God. Of course you can. I do it all the time. I do it all the time. And then he's like, flick right in your head, flick, go do what I said. And if you don't do it, things just open up so that you end up having to do it anyways, you know?
Right.
And I think that sometimes we take that for granted and we say, okay, well, God's got me and he's got something planned for me. So therefore, I just need to will it into existence. I mean, that's not how it works, right? You know what I'm saying? It's if you ask Tyler Perry, did I will it into existence? I'm sure he'd say yes, but he'll say he had to put in the work. It took investment. It took investing in himself. It took, whatever he needed to do to stay mentally tough. The same can be said for somebody like Eric Thomas, right? Did he will it into existence? I'm sure he will say yes. But he will also tell you that he never made excuses and he had to make a lot of investments. So when it comes to the goals that we've set, did I want to travel around the world? Yes. Did I know that I deserved it? Yes. Did I say, okay, well, I'm just going to be able to travel? I wish. I wish, but the flights had to be booked and they needed some money to be paid for. And so we have to create a plan to achieve our goals. And so that's how I support my clientels alongside other things. And these are very tangible things, but the things that you don't see, such as money mindset and really correcting your beliefs limiting and your abundant beliefs about money as well, so that we can identify where are they coming from, what are they aligned to. I think the problem with most of us is we're playing the wrong money game. And I read this book once and it talked about that. You might be trying to, Sean, you were saying you may not jump out of a plane, right? I might. I'm still on the fence, but I think I'm going to do it. And I think I'm going to do it because I really want to get to that point where I'm so scared that I just become brilliant. Like I'm trying to get to that level. It's a very absurd way of doing it, but that's the goal, right? And so for me, even if you say you're trying to get to that level, it doesn't mean that you're going to jump out of a plane. But what we do with money is I'll say, okay, this is the lifestyle that I want. And somebody says, oh, okay, well, I want that lifestyle, but you don't, right? Some people are content never seeing the other side of the world. Some people are content with one trip a year. Some people are content driving a Toyota and having more money in the bank. Some people are content with driving a G Wagon and having a little bit less. It just depends on the game that you're playing. And so when we're looking at creating a financial plan, we have to stop trying to duplicate the plan of other people, right? Oh, Sean's doing this. Oh, Sean likes this, so I like this. No, no, no. That's Sean. He's playing one game. What is your money game? And so that's what the financial plan aims to establish. Now, when it comes to figuring out what your money game is and really just getting skin in the game, because again, everything revolves around the actual cash flow. And I like the way that you asked that question because most people would say, How do I have more money left over? But cash flow is not what comes in, it's what's left after everything comes out. And so even when we talk about cash flow, generally we're a little bit delusional because we're like, oh, I made $1,000, this week, so that's my cash flow. No, 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 no. Your cash flow is the $1,000 less whatever else you had to spend for this week. And so to increase your cash flow, it's going to come back down to managing your expenses. Now, you made a really good point earlier about the fact that groceries are going up, car payments are expensive. If you have a mortgage, the mortgage rates are likely up if you were on variable. You're trying to buy a house. Not only do you have the down payment saved, but you got to have some additional just to be able to cover some things. Shoot, even to take an Uber, to rent a bike, everything's expensive. So how do you manage down your costs? Essentially, it's gonna, and some people are gonna hate these answers, but they're real answers. One is either you just really take into account what you can afford and delineate what is a need versus a want. Like you mentioned earlier, I'm a big believer in keeping some wants, but we don't have to have all the wants, right? You don't have to have every single problem in the book. Choose one. It's either you travel, or you're a shopaholic, or you're a chef and you like to eat out. And choose one thing that makes you enjoy life and manage it so that it's affordable for you. Stick to that thing, and everything else, please delay the gratification on it. Open up room because you want to open up your savings rate. Reduce subscriptions because we have a lot of those, a lot of free trials that ended up turning into paid things that we don't realize are still there. Look for areas that you can cut back on costs. So things that you're no longer using, right? So subscriptions usually fall into that category, but it can be other things, right? Delivery services, Amazon Prime. If we're not using these things as often, then we can cut it off. Even subscriptions when it comes to groceries, right? Because some of us are subscribed to certain deliveries and we don't need to be having that much food. If you shop at Costco and you live with a roommate that you don't share food with, we can cancel that. You can shop at Walmart. There is no need for you to be in Costco, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of like just going in and taking inventory of what you need and what you can downsize on. In the event that you find you're not doing anything excessively and there's no way for you to downsize, the answer is make more money. And as much as people are going to moan and groan and say, well, that sounds easy and it's easier said than done, it's literally easier done than said. It took me how many words to make that sentence? And it takes you just a couple of seconds to type in drop shipping in a browser, right? And so I'm not saying that starting a business is easy. I'm not saying that starting, getting another stream of income is always easy. But there are so many options that make it easy to at least start looking. And when you can do something like that, now you have an additional income stream that can start funding your goals, your dreams, your investments, your savings, your retirement.
Oh my gosh, you hit like every single nail on the on the hammer. There's so much I want to talk about. Okay, so the first thing you mentioned how when again you're trying to make money, sometimes there are people it's like, "Oh, my business is not making money." And even another thing too, I hear a lot of people saying, "Well, I'm just going to start a business to make money."
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't always work, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me. Like, this is coming from myself. I've been doing this for 3 years, and I'm still not at that point where I can fully confidently say I'm making like substantial income. There is a cash flow, and I'm managing it. It's still a work in progress for me. And it's for a lot of people that don't know that even if there is revenue coming in, like you mentioned, there's the expenses. So then it becomes like, okay, what's the profit and like what's coming out each week, each month? Because everyone just assumes that once you make money, the first time it's like, oh, we're good. But then you realize, oh, wait, there's rent. Oh, wait, we have to
Yes.
pay off this. Oh, wait, there's also the down payment on property and stuff, whatever it has to be, and then you're left with this, and then you have to start telling yourself, okay, this is the amount. How do I increase it, or how do I keep a steady flow where
Mm-hmm.
nothing is decreasing over a while? And you mentioned subscriptions as well. I think this is probably one of the biggest things that happens to a lot of people, including myself. Sometimes I will have a subscription, and I started learning this last year. I realized I had way too much subscriptions for things I did not needed, and I started to cancel them. And even if it's a subscription that has to relate to your business, or maybe just daily things like food and groceries. Uber Eats, man. For all the people out there, trust me, you don't need the Uber Eats. You don't need the pass and everything. Like for me, I live near like Jane and Wilson. there's like a bunch of places I can go. If I need to go for food, I'll probably just walk there. And I've been doing that recently because it's like, yo, it goes a long way because maybe it's like I save about $5 or $10, and that $5 or $10 would have been delivery. And you know those delivery fees on Uber Eats, they do not play.
Yeah.
They do not play. And it kind of cuts down everything like one by one. So again, having that micromanagement when it comes to little things that you're purchasing goes a long way. I think sometimes when people associate managing your money, you're thinking it's the big expenses. It's mostly, I guarantee 95% of the money that you spend are going to be on the littlest things, and they will always take the biggest swings on your
Yes.
accounts. So you always want to be able to manage that. So again, you touched on some fantastic points. Fantastic points.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I want to keep going because I feel like we have a good flow right now. We have a good flow. So could you share some resources that could be crucial to anyone who's looking to invest long term? You did mention about investments. That's something that you specialize in. So maybe for someone who doesn't know the language behind investments and maybe they want to invest long term and they don't know how exactly, what would you say are some resources or maybe some feedback that you could share to someone who's just learning about long term investments?
Mm. I would say so. First things first, find yourself a financial professional, cut your time in half. A financial professional can walk you through an investor's profile to figure out what you should be investing in. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've met people who are like, oh, I would like to make 200%, 200% a month, 200% a year. And I'm like, all right, great. So you think you're high risk? Are you comfortable? If you invested 100,000, are you comfortable seeing it at 60,000? Or would you pull your money out? Oh, for sure I'd pull my money out. You're not making 200%. 200% is somebody who's like, make me lose it all and I'm excited. So it oftentimes we come in with these money mindsets about how investing should work and who we should be as investors. And you need to work with a financial professional and a good one to figure out who you truly are. Let's uncover that first. Once they've uncovered that, they can give you recommendations on what you should be investing in, what percentage of equities, what percentage of money market, what percentage of fixed income, and then kind of develop a portfolio for you that can work long and short term, depending on your goals. In terms of definitions, some really good books include one, Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is, I think, for many people, they know that this is a really good book on investing. It touches on investing, it touches on debt management, it touches on small slivers, entrepreneurship, and cash flow, right? And then cash flow quadrant is how you get into how do I open up my cash flow. There's also this book that I loved it, but it's very dry, but I recommend it. I know that there's Clever Girl Finance. I know that there is also Canadian's Guide to Investing, Saving, and Budgeting. And this is a really good thing to kind of walk you through the ins and outs of having a well balanced financial home. But of course, there's so many resources on the internet, and maybe you're not like me and you don't like books, especially not the driest one that I just mentioned. But if that's your case, you can always go on things like Morningstar, create a user account, and there's all these articles on different investments, even what's trending in the stock world, all of these great strategies and things like that. And that's free. So there's lots of resources you can use both online, Audible, podcasts, all of that great stuff. And then, of course, books.
Yeah, that's perfect. And just to fact check very quickly, I think you may also have like a book or something. Like, I remember this because like I think it was on Instagram when at the time being for the Security Back Summit, and I was reading like your description. It's mentioned something that was it was a good play on the TV series Ned's the Classified School Survivor Guy. So that's why it was in the back of my head. So
Yes, that is also a really good resource. Look at me. Look at me not saying that.
I'm about to say, I'm like, I was waiting for her to kind of mention or something, or like, I don't know if she's being humble. That's what I'm wondering.
Maybe a little bit humble. Yes, I have Ev's Declassified Finance Survival Guide, and it touches on investment strategies. But the reason why I would say for this one, it does give you terms, but it's a well working and like a to be immediately applied workbook that will help you achieve the goals. And so I think in this case, if you're just getting started and you're not willing to take action yet, the books that I mentioned are good. Ed's Declassified Finance Survival Guide is like you're ready to go. There's a savings tracker for travel, for larger savings goals, for down payments in there, managing down your debts so that you can pay them off. So essentially, it's just an exercise book that walks you through within the next 12 months. How can you ensure that you hit each goal? Whereas the books mentioned earlier are how do I get started? Where do I look? What do I need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's good. It's good that you have something where it helps people. It's like, okay, this is how you get started. Or like this is when everything is set and you have everything, situated. This is where you can go check out the resource and you start putting things in, you start to fill out the holes. But really appreciate you listing all those other services, all those other resources as well. Cause again, a lot of people may not get that support. And that actually goes into my next question. So being someone again who's kind of support different people in their financial implications and situations, do you feel that there is enough support being offered where it's kind of shift the way we use money in our society today? Do you feel like people are getting enough back where they're making the right decisions for, any purchase or maybe any investment? Or do you still feel like there needs to be a little bit more advocacy for other financial professionals to support those or look for people who are in need of that financial guidance?
I think this is a really hard question. I think this is a really hard question because yes, there are more than enough resources out there. Don't get me wrong. There's ample resources. Like I said, there's resources that are free. There are platforms that use AI to do trading for you now. There are keywords and hot buttons. There are TikTok influencers and Instagram influencers constantly purporting all of these different terminologies, investment strategies, key things for money management has become such a hot topic, right? And it's almost like sexy again. Everybody wants to figure out how to make their money work for them. And so it's everywhere, right? What I would say leaves a gap is the fact that that information, again, remember the money game, it speaks to different people with different resources and it doesn't address money mindset. And so, as a financial professional, one thing about myself that I acknowledge is that I'm not the same as everybody else, right?
Right.
I'm not the same as everybody else because one financial professional might say to you, don't spend money on that trip. In fact, stop traveling until you've saved X amount and then we can have another discussion. Whereas I'm like, if you're $200 short, take it and let's worry about it after, but I need you to take it to know what you're missing out on. Right. And that's the difference between me and other financial professionals. I don't just give solutions, I correct money mindset. Whereas I feel like with all these resources, there's a lot of information and information overload, but people are still going into this information with terrible money mindsets that have never been addressed. They don't know where they come from. People still don't believe that they're worthy of earning more. They're not sure if they think money is evil or not. They're not sure whether or not they'll ever be able to achieve their goals and whether or not they even want to tell people that they have them. And so I think that as a result, the biggest opportunity for people in the financial space is to hone in on that mindset piece, right? Because if we can correct money mindset and provide solutions, you're good. But there are times where I've worked with some clients where I have to say things like, when your financial well being is more important to you than it is to me, holla at me. And that's not because they don't have every ounce of information and everything that I can give, but it's because for them, they're like, okay, I know that I need this. I don't know if this is important to me yet or now, and I don't know if I'm deserving of this yet. So we work to tackle the money mindset. But if somebody's not willing to change their money mindset, which is also a challenge, a sticky challenge within our community, then you have to give them time until they circle back with a willingness to change that mindset. And with that willingness to change mindset, there's an opportunity to start building with solutions and strategies.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that end. So maybe I could provide a little bit of an example. So even for myself, there have been times where I've wanted to run certain projects or live events, and these live events would relate to my business, whether it's like philanthropy or like raising funds. But obviously, for anyone who knows out there, when you're running an event, you need money. You need the funds to even run the event to get the funds. So obviously that becomes a whole another conversation. And there are times where I'm telling myself, okay, like I need to reach this certain mark to run my event. So let's say, for example, it's $1,000. But I'm looking at my situation right now. It's like I might be halfway short. Do I still
Mm,
go through with it? But now it's becomes like multiple questions are coming in the back of your head, like, well, I don't want to like overspend and put myself into a deficit. But again, it goes back to your mindset where if you're just a bit short, does that cloud your judgment to just do the project overall? Maybe it's to say, you know what? Does it have to be $1,000 event? It could be a $500 event, and I can make it work
hmm.
as long as I'm being able to do something and like be able to
Absolutely.
do it in the end. I will feel better about myself. So like maybe you can like just break that down a bit as an example because I know for myself, there are times I'm like, I want to do something and I want to do it, but I'm very persistent. It's like if I want something, I want to do it, and I don't care if it's like people tell me, well, you need to switch up. I'm stubborn. I'm not gonna lie, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a stubborn person when it comes to it. But maybe you could break down a little bit just how would you approach that? Let's say I'm a client saying, listen, I want to do an event. It's $1,000. I'm only at 500, but my heart's still saying I want to do it. But I understand that if I do it, I might put myself into a financial deficit.
So in this case, there are two ways that I would approach this case study with this client. The first way is if you are 50% short, and let's say that, yes, there's arguably you could have a $500 event. However, for your brand and the community you're looking to kind of speak to, and the gravitas of the event that you're planning to host, $500 may just not cut it. And that's a reality, right? Like we can be like, I could be like, well, just do it for $500, and it doesn't even get you the space, right? And so one thing is, I would say, depending on the timeline, try to see if you can get sponsors. That's the first thing. Look for ways that you can spend your money to make more money or to subsidize the money that you're short on, right? Is there anything available that can help you get to that target? If not, and it's we're looking at your money and your money alone, then I would still say find a way to bridge the gap. One, with an event like this, you should probably already have an emergency fund. And if you don't, we're going to have to work really hard and cut down on your discretionary expenses so that you can cover the cost of this event. And the goal with that is, because some people might be listening to that to think, so you want me to just overspend? Not necessarily. I want you to overspend to make money, right? Because the point of the event would be marketing. Marketing leads to stickiness, more viewers, more shares, more opportunities. If it's a paid event, it leads to more opportunity to recoup the $500. You put in that effort once and you go above and beyond in a way. And everybody says, okay, I never want to miss Sean's event, which guarantees cash flow for now, but it also guarantees cash flow for later. To a similar point, if somebody says, you want to take a flight and you're just $500 short, the trip you're going to Cuba or Mexico, it's $1,000, you got $500 saved. I'm going to ask you the same thing. Is there any low interest loan that you have that could shore up the other $500? If the answer is no, you still have to delay gratification on something else to make room for that $500. I'm still going to send you. Why? Because just like an event, travel or pouring into yourself, it has an impact on your mindset, right? So either you come back and you're no longer burnt out. You come back with a completely new perspective that generates income for you down the line. You come back and you just know that there's something that you were missing in life, and so you're going to just work 10 times harder in any way that you can to continue living that lifestyle, because at least now you've tasted it. And so I would always say, depending on the craziness of the jump, if you were having this event and you're like, the goal is 5 grand and I'm at $500, well, there's only so much that we can do, because if there's a point where we get to, it's physically not possible. But how can we get to the closest level of possibility without breaking your back, creating way too much debt at a high interest rate, but that also fits into room of ROI, return on investment, so that you're making a good decision, you get to a certain level with your event or your goal, and this comes back to pay you 10 times after later on down the line.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And I know you mentioned how, let's say for example, that 500 you have, do you use it as something where is it going to be like marketing to hopefully you're spending that 500 but you're also accumulating some income as well. So
Yes.
it's kind of like using what you have as a subset to probably make even more income. That could be one of the different approaches. And again, like you said, for different people, they'll have different resources and different ways or strategies to accumulate that income or get to a certain goal. And I like again how you realize that it's a mindset, it's something that's mental. Because again, there's a lot of people who can provide a solution, but when you provide a solution, there's not that much to really go off of rather than just the solution itself. It's like, okay, but what am I gonna feel afterwards? Like, let's say you're telling me this, but it doesn't work. I'm still like that now. I still have the problem, and now my mindset is just at an all time low. And I like how you
Yeah.
yeah, I like how you try to have the best of both worlds. Like you try to provide like the best solutions, and it's not to fully say that I know everything. It's just I'm just giving you things that based on the case study or the situation that could help you with your just financial problems. But also, I want to make sure that mindset right here, you're not leaving this call or you're not leaving this discussion where you're still in a drought. You're someone who's actually starting to, be a little bit more like positive about how you're seeing the situation as well.
Yeah, and think about it this way. Money is fun when you're making it. Money sucks when you're not. And so to when I sit down with a lot of my clients, I was talking to a client just the other day, and she basically said, I'm done with how expensive life is. I'm just done. And she just started laughing hysterically. She didn't cry. She just started laughing hysterically because she's completely done with the conversation. She knows her finances are messed up. She said, these creditors are sending me emails now, like, we care about you, pay your bill. And she said, if I had it, I'd pay it, but I don't have it. And if you're in a situation like that and somebody says, just save more, just spend less, again, it just puts salt in the wound. I already know I don't have it. So I don't need you to tell me to do less. And I'm already doing nothing at all. So
Right.
sometimes the mindset is conditional response. It's not Sigmund Freud, but one of those guys, Albert Bandura, had this Bobo doll theory about conditional response and all of these great things. And conditional response is really important because if we are rewarding ourselves just like you would do with a child, and I know people are watching this thinking I'm a big person, so I don't know why you're saying like a child, but the same way that you would treat a child, when they do something good, you reward them. If you have a pet, they do something good, you reward them. As adults, we do something great and we don't reward ourselves. We reward ourselves with more work. So at some point, when things get demotivating, it's very hard for you to stick to the goal. In my case, when, like I said, I used to save, I'd save a couple thousand, you feel good, and then you spend it. Because what the heck am I saving this for? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been doing nothing, not shopping. I'm wearing the same clothes from middle school. I'm in high school now. You mean to tell me, like, when does things start to get great? So you have to give yourself a little bit of that greatness, right? So that you continue to feel that greatness as you build. And when things get tough and there is a drought, like a COVID-19 or a period that you just have to stop spending so you can increase your savings rate, or a recession, whatever it is, you're good. You feel content because you've been living. Whereas if that happens and you haven't been living, that's the point where you decide you're going to give up.
Yeah, yeah, that's man, you're really hitting something like deep inside of me right now. Just like everything that you're sharing, it's making me like reevaluate. Like, damn, because like I'm not gonna lie, I'll be very transparent with everyone here. Like, I'm going through those type of like financial issues where I can't spend at this certain moment. There's certain things I want to do and I can't, and sometimes it goes back to the mindset because you're so focused on like, oh, what's gonna happen next? It's like, is the credit card company gonna call me? Like, is something else gonna happen? And sometimes you want to have a positive mindset where you're finding those solutions, but you're living life as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
this again, you're hitting at everything, and then, like I really appreciate it. And I'm really glad now I got you on the podcast because you're not just teaching the people, you're kind of giving me a lesson as well. And like that's what we're here
I
for. It's
love
a
that.
space to share information, share stories, and support each other.
Yeah, no, I love that. And there were times where a reward might just be a little ice cream. So one thing about me, this is a fun fact that I should have shared, but the reason why I didn't is because if you really pay attention to any podcast or any speaking engagement, I'm always talking about food, but always ice cream, dessert. I just did a call yesterday and I could not stop talking about strawberry shortcake and apple turnover. Like I love desserts. I don't know when I became a dessert person, but sometimes that reward, it may not be the flyest handbag this week, but it could just be like, yeah, I'm gonna order in, or I'm gonna have the wickedest apple turnover, and that's just going to set me up for my week. So remember that indulging doesn't always have to be super expensive either. It could be taking a drive and just putting an extra 20 bucks in your car for gas so that you can drive up to Wasaga Beach and just sit there and be one. Maybe you can't actually get on the plane yet. You can sit in the airport though. And some people be like, why would I can't get past security. Is the point. Get there. Get there. Get into a space of like, I'm almost there, and celebrate in the way that you can. You could go to Starbucks in the airport and just be like, yeah, I'm in the airport. Next year, I'm going to get past security. And the year after that, travel's going to be a lifestyle. So, yeah,
I love
I'm
it.
really happy that you shared that too.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Okay. I do want to get to the closing topics just to wrap this conversation up. Now, I do want to talk about just quickly generational wealth. I know that's
Mhm.
something that gets thrown a couple of times, and that's something if you're someone who comes from a household with your family, maybe siblings, that is you're something you're striving for. And even achieving like, a seven figure, salary. A lot of people strive for something like that. So I just want to ask you personally, like, what would you say is like one thing or like one advice that you would share to someone that could help them generate that generational wealth for, their household, or maybe to someone who has like a very like big family and they want to pass it down to like, their future generations?
I would say Rome wasn't built in a day. Generational wealth, it can be built in a lifetime, but for most people, it won't be. And so I will say, remember that it shouldn't necessarily have to fall on you to do everything and everything. There are ways that it can be you who does that, but there's a chance that it won't be. Generational wealth, I think we use the term loosely, but to pass away as a multimillionaire, that's not generational wealth. That's generation wealth. That's for the next set of people. And if you're a millionaire, like you've got 1, 2 million, that's just for one household in the future. That's not generational wealth. And so when we're talking generational wealth, we want to talk multi millions, billions, right? And generational wealth is a compounding effort. So if I leave behind 500 million to a generation now, I still want that generation to be able to double or triple that. That's how you keep generational wealth. And so, just like I was saying earlier on, that it kind of comes back down to mindset when it's financial management, money management. When it comes to generational wealth, it also still comes down to financial literacy. Because if you pass down any amount of money, you win the lotto max, whatever, and you pass that to a generation or a household that doesn't have good money management skills, that's not generational wealth. It's squandered. They MC Hammer it like no tomorrow. And so you want to make sure that alongside the goals you're setting, most importantly, the before you pass down tangible assets, you're passing down the generational mindset, right, of financial literacy.
I love that. I really love how you mentioned that if you are making like, for example, 500 million or a large amount of like money, it's not just you make that money and then it's for the rest of the generations moving forward. Like, okay, you got it. It's like, no, you have to double or triple. It needs to uphold as well. 'Cause I think a lot of people may confuse ourselves. And again, it's not our fault. I think sometimes we don't look deeper into it. They may think you make an abundance amount of money now and then it's supposed to just kind of spread out for 5 to 10 years, where that's not the case. You're supposed to always keep adding on top to that original or to that, amount that's supposed to be there. That shows the generational wealth. So I'm glad that you even broke down to that, because I feel a lot of us are assuming like, oh, I'm gonna make $1 billion now, like we're set. if there's not that longevity where you're having sustainability with that income, that billion may be gone in the next 1-2 years, depending how bad the
Yeah.
situation can be. So I'm glad you kind of broke it down like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yes. And that's all the questions I got. Ebony, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me again, and I hope to come back again soon to navigate a bunch of other topics as the economy is changing, as there are new things kind of budding in the entrepreneurial space and creator space. So I hope that you'll have me back. And of course, I know that I'll see you soon because we did say it's the end of the year, and you know what comes at the beginning of the new year. So I'm looking forward to seeing more content from you on how we can kind of pour into the community. And I wanted to say thank you as well for using your time and your platform to pull together some of the best resources available to educate our community and to provide resources, to provide strategies and solutions to really help us build and navigate to create a true safe room for the community. So thank you. If I haven't said thank you enough, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, because we definitely need this podcast and the information that it provides to grow, right? So alongside this episode, the episodes that have passed, the episodes that come after, keep doing what you're doing and continue to source the best of the best, because a good host is only able to pull together a good caliber of speakers when they themselves have some talent. And if you weren't as talented as you were, well, the safe room wouldn't be what it is today. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, I think I'm actually crying right now. Oh my goodness, guys. I'm gonna need you to probably. I might have to get you on videotape so you could just. I have to post on my social media. Like that was truly, that was beautiful. I'm so glad that you've seen everything I've done so far
Yes.
and just acknowledging even the past episodes. Usually when we come to this part, people are just like, "Thank you for having me on. You're doing your thing," which is fine. But you kind of broke down just how much this space matters and just everything I've done for the last 3 years. So again, I really, really appreciate it. And the craziest thing, guys, I'm just breaking the surface. There's so much more that's coming.
Mhm.
So I'm so excited to share. But Ebony, again, truly thank you so much for the kind words. Damn, you got me emotional and shit. Oh my gosh. Wow, wow. I mean, you love to see it. You love to see it. Where can people find you on social media? Where can people contact you?
So social media is at Ebony Eboni .elle. There's an underscore that I always forget, so it's underscore ebony.l. My website is ebonyl.com. And of course, if you have questions and you want to reach out to me by email, info@ebonyl.com. But again, once you hop over to my Instagram, all of the most important resources, including that activity heavy take some action in the next 12 months workbook, Ebbs Declassified Financial Guide, is on my website.
Perfect, perfect. Thanks again to everyone listening. Make sure you go check out the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review, give us a rating. You can follow us on Instagram. Check out our YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, you can actually see our full review video of the Secure the Bag Summit, which I had the pleasure of being a part of. So please go check it out. I actually had an interview with Ebony as well. It was very short because I know everything was so busy. It was like a lots of running around, but I'm glad we have this conversation. It's something that you can expand on a little bit. So definitely go check it out. And thank you to everyone who listened to the Safe Room today. And we'll see you guys next time.